for most of you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So we're very happy to have Jun Wu with us today, who will present in the blink of an eye exchange to SIP latency and trade classification accuracy. Jun has asked that we do not interrupt throughout the talk. He will have a break a few minutes in so that you may ask your questions. Also, we have chat available, so if you have questions, and Matthew Pierson, one of the co-author, is in the virtual room as well. So he would be happy to address any questions via chat, and if he believes that some of them have to be elevated to the floor, he'd elevate them to the floor. But for now, let's just wait for the break, and then you're welcome to have questions at the end of the talk as well. So with that said, Jun, the floor is all yours. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming.
Thank you, Katalia. Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Jun. I'm a Senior Research Director at Wharton Research Study Service. It is a great pleasure to be invited to present our paper at the Microstructure Exchange. So this paper is co-authored with Craig Holden at Indiana and my colleague Matt Pierson at Wharton. So it is Matt is here today to help answer any questions you might have. It is unfortunate that Craig is no longer with us. So this is one of his remaining works. Matt and I, we think the methodology we propose in the paper could be helpful for many empirical research in the future. So we put everything we have into the paper you see today, and we received a lot of help, feedback, and comments from many of Craig's friends. We just want to say, thank you. And if you have any thoughts you want to share with us, any feedback, comments, or suggestions, feel free to email us after the presentation. So we do have a planned pause of about 15 minutes into the intro, and also we will be open to answer more questions at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat channel, and Matt will help to answer the questions on the fly. If there's any more critical issues, we can talk about on the floor. So the title of the paper goes as In the Blink of an Eye, Exchange to SIP Latency and Trade Classification Accuracy. So in the blink of an eye means that it's going to be very fast. So we'll be talking about in microseconds. So as you know, 1 microsecond is 1 millionth of a second. And the exchange to SIP or exchange to exchange latency is typically in hundreds of microseconds. And here, the word SIP might be new to some of you. This stands for the Security Information Processor. It is the central hub of the consolidated feed. So we'll get to into more detail when we get there. So the whole agenda of today's talk lie out as following. So we will spend a few minutes to review some of the recent changes in market data and see why it matters to academics. So we'll present our motivation and the research question that we are after. Before we go to the methodology, we want to show you the 3 new facts in today's market microstructure that sets the fundamentals and the baselines of our methodology. And then we'll talk about literature and why it matters, and we hope to have a pause there to answer any questions you might have. And then we'll present them to masters and then present our results and talk about why it matters for academic research or just for latency. So just to give you a brief background, so there are 2 systems how exchanges can communicate with each other. One is a consolidated feed, while the other is a direct feed. So in the consolidated feed, on the left-hand side here, I present 16 dots, which stands for 16 exchanges in the US. The SIP, again, stands for Security Information Processor. It is the central hub of a consolidated feed. So exchanges, they send quotes to the SIP, and the SIP, typically like the US, process for 2 files, the National Best Bid and Offer, and BBO, and also the limit up, limit down, LULD files. And then they broadcast this NBBO and LULD to all the participating exchanges so that the exchanges will know where to route the orders to practice best execution rule. And also if the LULD would let the participant exchange know which symbol when to stop for trading when a meltdown event is triggered. So on the right-hand side, the direct feed does not have such an SIP to consolidate all these quotes. So the exchange perceives the message level direct feeds from all the connected and participating exchanges directly, and then they consolidate at the matching engine, and then they execute the orders based on the information that they perceived. So this is the major difference between the SIP feed and the direct feed. So if you take a look into the market system in the US, and next slide we'll be talking about Europe. So on the left-hand side, this lays out the two networks, the CTA network and the UTP network. CTA stands for Consolidated Trade Association, which is owned and administrated by NYSE. So it has Tape A and Tape B securities. So UTP stands for Universal Unlisted Trading Privilege, which is owned and administrated by NASDAQ. It has the Tape C securities. So all the existing exchanges, they, according to where the stock is listed, is going to report to two different SIPs. So CTA has a SIP and UTP has a SIP. And later we'll talk about where the SIP is actually physically located. So something new that is coming from the regulators is that the SEC want to stop this the 3 NMS plans. So they want to build up something new called the CT plan as the new national market plan. So they want to create a new entity called the CT plan LLC and have all the SROs. Basically, SRO stands for the self-regulatory organization. It basically means these exchanges. They want all the exchanges to own a fraction share of the new CT plan LLC, and to redo the whole national market system. So we'll get to more interesting policy inferences of our methodology that is related to the CT plan later on in the presentation. Well, in the Europe, exchanges have been consuming the direct feed for years, and now they're considering having a consolidated tape to have a consolidated feed for the first time to improve transparency. So it's interesting, as you see in the US, we've been using the consolidated feed for over 20 years, and now everybody's migrating to the direct feed because they realize the SIP feed is slow. While on the other side of the world in Europe, you're seeing exchanges who have been using direct feed now want to do a consolidated feed to improve transparency. So the two sides of the words are not moving the same direction, but it is important to bring to attention that both the SIP feed and the direct feed has their own pros and cons that we'll review in our methodology in a bit. You will see what's the pros and cons. So we've spent a few minutes on the background. So let's present our motivation and research question. So why academics we care is about these changes in market data. So we spent a few minutes looking to the future, what's the new changes going to come to the Europe and the US markets. But what's interesting is that if we take a step and review all the changes that has took place in the data that we're familiar with, which the NYSE trades and quotes, the tag data, there are itty-bitty improvements over the years. So if you're familiar with the tag data, there are two different versions of the tag: the monthly tag, which is in second timestamp, and the daily tag, which is in millisecond timestamp. So in terms of the timestamp precision, it has improved from the second to millisecond to microsecond and to nanosecond over the past 30 years. Okay, and also similarly, our academic methodology to match trades and quotes is also improved from the previous 5 seconds to previous 3, previous second, previous millisecond. And now if you think about taking advantage of the finer timestamp precision, we can do the previous microsecond and previous nanosecond. So if you don't know why we care about how to match trades and what timestamp precision to use, is that in tag data, there's trades and quotes, but the trade does not let you know if it's a buy or sell. So you have to use the best education to match the trade to the prevailing NBBO, the prevailing quote that the trade is most likely has executed against. And then you can use the midpoint inference, you can use lead ready and tick test to sign these trades as buys and sells. Okay, so basically this is mostly the first step of many empirical research in the microstructure. So why the timestamp matters and why the choice of the precision timestamp precision matters. So let me show you an example on the very right. So on the right column, I use Microsoft as an example, and I grab one random day from last year. It's December the 1st. So if you are consuming the daily tag data, which is now in microseconds and nanoseconds, if you are matching trades to the previous microsecond or the previous nanosecond quote, you should expect expect a single-digit % of the trades matched to outside NBBO. So although we do not know how accurate are the trade to quote matching, are we matching to the right quote or the right NBBO? But percentage of trades outside NBBO gives you a good indirect inference about how good your matches are. So definitely, if you are using old methods, the previous second, previous 3 seconds or 5 seconds, just like in old days, but still consuming today's tech data, you will end up with a lot of trades outside NBBO, which means that your trade to quote signing is inaccurate, and as a result, your buy sell or trade classification will also be incorrect. So this means that the takeaway is that at first glance, the more precise timestamps seem to help, and we should, use the most accurate timestamp precision as it provides in tech when matching trades and quotes. And here I just want to bring this to your attention that everybody knows Holden and Jacobson's 2014 GF paper that uses the interpolated timestamp methods, which helps these users who don't have the daily tag but still live in the monthly tag. While using the interpolated second, they can get the benefit of the daily tag in milliseconds while still using in the monthly tag. So this was a great leap. So now, if you are okay with the percentage outside NBBO, if you know these timestamp precision improvements, you should expect when you match trades to quotes, you should expect a single-digit percentage of outside NBBO trades, and this will be a good criteria when you review how good your trade to quote matching methods are. But we don't stop here. It seems there is still something that is missing that intriguing us. So on the left-hand side, I'm presenting you an example with Microsoft trading in a whole second in the morning of October 29th, 2010. For the whole second, I plot all the trades and bid-ask quotes of the previous second. As you can see, 99% of the trades are outside the previous second NBB and NBO. So if you are using the previous second method, you will be very screwed. But on the right-hand side, if we take advantage of the millisecond timestamp and we redo the exercise on the left to just match these trades with the previous millisecond quotes, the result is it's better. Now 50% of the trades are inside of the previous millisecond NBBO. But it seems something is still off. What's interesting in this example is that there is a couple of trades executed at 2705. But there's only one NBB from Niziaka, which is as high as 2705. In other words, in that whole second, there's no other quote that trade could be executed against other than that NBB, which is the one in the green. So the question is, it seems that there is an obvious gap between that NBB and the trade. It's about 20 milliseconds here, and there's nothing other than the timestamp precision that explains. So we want to look into what happened. Why is the trade seems to still be late, and what have we missed here? So this I want to present to our question, and this is what we are after. So what is the best approach to match trades to quotes in this era of fast trading? And we'll more specifically want to go into, does adjusting trade and quote for their message latency, will they help improve trade classification accuracy? Okay, so before talking about the methodology, I want to present you 3 new facts in today's new market microstructure. We'll be talking about the US market. This might be new to you and also set the fundamentals of our methodology. So the first fact here, I want to let you know that the exchanges and practitioners are consuming the direct feed as their primary feed, and the exchanges are using SIP feed as their secondary source. So you might know that in the beginning, from the difference between the SIP feed and the direct feed, one has a consolidator while the other does not. And it is common understanding in the practitioner's world that the direct feed is faster than a SIP feed. I will show you some common letter from the practitioners from their standpoint of viewing a bit. And the direct feed is faster. We're showing the next slide. And the high frequency trading players, they consume direct feed, but not only just a direct feed, but they also have it sent wirelessly using the millimeter wave towers. This is a kind of NYSE's website to show you now all the communication are in wireless towers. This is MAWA to Secaucus, and this is MAWA to Cadbury. Everything is in wireless towers. So according to NASDAQ, millimeter wave towers can transmit messages about 40 to 50% faster than the conventional optical fiber cables. Okay, so everybody knows about the Chicago's Andrew's Evercloud have a silver lining gel paper. So what's interesting is that the new technology also emerged from the demand to be weatherproof. And there's this new company called Anova, which operates innovative methodology to combine a millimeter wave with a free space optical, which is a laser beam technology. So when it rains, where the millimeter wave tower would suffer loss of communication speed, they will switch on to the free space optical, which is laser beam, to maintain the same speed and low latency in the wireless communications. So they also added something like in windy days, they will swiggle around to make sure the dish-to-dish communication is accurate. So these are all the new technologies that is appealing to the high-frequency traders who really cares about speed. So for academics, we all know that the TAC is the SIP, the consolidated feed. The direct feed is not available to academics at this moment. In other words, we are trying our best to collect their order book data from all the 16 exchanges, but we are still in the negotiation progress. But now, first, we want to bring NYSE and the NYSE ANCA's order book to academics. So this is still in the discussion with NYSE. So why direct feed is faster, and what's the difference between the direct feed and SIP feed? Let's look into a simple example about the diagram of the exchanges. So let's say we have two exchanges and one SIP. So the exchange A, let's say it has a quote that is better than the order book, its local order book. It's gonna send that quote to the SIP to process and let the SIP know that this is a better quote that I have at my local exchange. So it will leave the exchange A at quote at exchange time, and it will arrive to the SIP. The SIP will process for NBBO and LULD. So once it's done processing, it will print that quote at the quote at SIP time. So these times that I highlight are recorded in TAC. Okay, then it will send out to all the participating exchanges, including exchange B. And let's say there is a market order or limitable marketable limit order that the exchange B want to route to see if other places have better price, and they receive that NBBO update, and they find exchange A has the best price. So they will route to exchange A for best execution. So this is a simple roadmap of where the quotes and trades goes around when there's order routing involved. So and now the exchange A that is previously the quote originating exchange will become the trade executing exchange. And this exchange will be the EX ID in TAC will be recorded. But you do not have the identification of the exchange B where the order is originally routed from. Okay, so compared to the direct feed and the SIP feed, in the direct feed, you do not have the road trip to the SIP and then for the SIP to broadcast among all the exchanges. So basically, exchange A communicates with exchange B directly, and then exchange B will know where to route the order to in the direct feed and send the order directly to exchange A. So there's nothing involving with the SIP. So direct feed is much faster. As you see, you don't need to wait for the SIP to consume and consolidate and then broadcast it to all exchanges. So in the 2020, the SEC had a roundtable on market data and market access. They basically collect the common letters from the practitioners and academics to see, why everybody is favoring the direct feed but not consuming the SIP feed anymore. And later on, it shaped to the new NMS plan that is now in the discussion. So I want to take two statements in the common letter from the practitioners to your notice. So the first one comes from SIFMA. It says the fundamental problem with today's market data infrastructure is that the SIP no longer provide enough market data at sufficient speeds for today's marketplace. This causes many firms have no other choice but to rely on exchanges' proprietary feed to meet best execution obligations and remaining competitive when routing customers' orders. And then there's a petition from RBC Capital saying proprietary feeds usually have lower latencies than SIP-provided core data because they are transmitted using the fastest technologies, and because, unlike information in the SIPs, information in the direct feed does not have to be first consolidated with other information administered by one of the three NMS plans. So that all just shows you the speed advantage of the direct feed compared to the SIP feed that is favored by the practitioners. Now, the second fact, this is also presented in many papers that documenting latency. So today, the exchange's matching engine and the SIPs are co-located in 3 cities in New Jersey. So in Mahwah, we have the NYSE exchange's matching engines and the CTA SIP. In Cataract, it's the NASDAQ and all the NASDAQ exchanges matching engines. In Secaucus, we have CBOEs, and there's a few miles down southeast, and that's Weehawken, which is the investors exchange. So in this map, we show you the physical directed straight line distance. So you can imagine from Mahwah to Cataract, that's about 35 miles. So imagine a beam of light, which is traveled at 3 times 10 powered by 8 meters per second. It's going to take that beam of light, at least 188 microseconds, to travel from Mahwah to Cataract. So if you think about exchanges consuming either direct feed or SIP feed, we'll be able to see others' message or others' NBVO instantaneously. This is not true. There will be a lower bound of 188 microseconds set by the law of physics. Okay, so we also present you the physical address of all these exchanges and the CTA and the UTP SIPs. On the left-hand side, this is recorded by the IDs in tag, and then these are the actual physical addresses. So the third fact we want to talk about is that there are 2 new timestamps coming in tag, which has been there since 2016. One is this participant exchange time. Many of you have noticed this and wonder how can we take advantage of it. There are also papers that suggest that we should just use participant exchange time when matching trades and quotes when it is available, and don't bother with the SIP time anymore. And also there are new papers that looking into the FINRA timestamp. You can see the paper by Chester and Tom and Jonathan for their off-exchange data. They also look into latency between the FINRA, the participant, and the SIP. So what we will be focusing on is how to use and take advantage of the participant exchange time when matching trades and quotes. Okay, so how this timestamp is defined. So when a trade or quote message leaves the exchange, this will be recorded as the participant time, and then it will travel to the SIP, and then once again, SIP will be processing the consolidated, the NBVO, the LULD, and those. It will finish completing processing at the SIP time. So in general, you can think about SIP time equal to the participant exchange time plus how much it takes the message to travel from the exchange to SIP, and then there's a SIP gateway latency. This is also referred as the material latency in the SEC documents, and plus the SEC processing time. Okay, so SIP time has been there in the very beginning of tech in 1993, but the participant exchange time is new only after 2015 August and onwards. So in the paper, when we talk about latency here, we really mean the SIP time less the participant exchange time. So everything takes from the exchange, from exchange to the SIP. Okay, this is the latency we're talking about. And in the observed tech data, you actually can, connecting to the second fact that the exchanges are now co-located, you can expect the latencies will be clustered by these exchanges and SROs. So for the CTA SIP, which is located in Mahwah, you can see NYSE's exchanges have the lowest latency, while the Cataract, which is further away apart, has the highest latency. And on the right-hand side, the UTP SIP is co-located in Cataract with NASDAQ. So you can see they have the lowest latency here, but the NYSE, which is the furthest apart, have the greater latency out there. Okay, so let's take a quick review onto the literature. How existing papers are dealing with the timestamps and why we should matter or care about to do a latency adjustment in the methodology. So prior studies, we basically assume that the message latency is 0 and the exchanges are able to observe others' trades and quotes instantaneously. And Bedred and McCurry in 2019, they suggest that we should use a direct MBVO method, simply just to use the participant exchange time to match trades and quotes. And they assume the exchange to exchange latency is 0 and order routing is instantaneous. So we actually find that if we are using the Exchange 605 data, there's a lot of order routing activities going on. So about 37% of the market orders, so here I put a star mark here, just the market orders and the market volume orders, and NYSE and ARCA, they are routed out to other exchanges. So if you are omitting latency and assume it to be 0, basically you will end up with matching trade to quotes before the away exchanges actually perceives them. Okay, so when order routing among exchanges increases, you can imagine these conventional SIP time method, basically matching trades and quotes based on the SIP time, or the direct MBVO method, which just suggests using the participant exchange time. All these that assume exchange latency being 0, you would expect their trade classification accuracy will be lower. Okay, and also in our paper, we want to show you that just for latency could alter research inferences when you are measuring liquidity, because some change to the fundamentals are not caused by the liquidity, the market making, rather it's by just the technology advances, which has nothing to do with the economics of market making. So I also want to mention matching trades and quotes. This is an important first step for many strands of market microstructure research. Anything that has to do with assigning the buys and sells as the first steps would find the benefit from using the latency adjustment method, because in the end, you will be having more accurately signed buys and sells, and you will have less bias in your measurement. And you will have more robust and more predictive order imbalances in the model. So here, there's many more that we can list here, but generally speaking, the 3 strands of literature that uses order imbalance, measures liquidity, because you need to sign the buys and sells to compute the effective spread, the realized spread, and the price impact, and then also the informed trading, which is the ping that is highly rely on the signing of the amount of buys and sells in a certain time stamp. So this will be an important first step for these strands of microstructure research. So I think we can take a quick pause to see if there's any questions we want to address in the fly.
I saw both Tom had a question and Paul did as well.
Well, you showed some rather remarkable data about Microsoft trading outside the spread at these very small, microseconds. What about a typical stock that doesn't trade quite so much? Do the quotes catch up better to those stocks?
We do look into trades that I mean quintiles of trades that are highly traded, or these are and those that are not that frequently traded. So we find that the trades that are more frequently traded benefit more from the latency adjustment than those that are not. So for those that are individually that you mentioned, that we can also look into like how many would be benefited from the latency adjustment. Is that did that answer your question?
Well, I wanted to know how typical your example was.
I see. Yeah. But we in the end, when we will present the summary statistics about how many more trades are accurately signed with latency adjustments, and also how much trades that are matched to abnormal quotes. These are like obviously outside MBVO, and also these are matched to cross and locked spreads are significantly much lower with latency adjustments. Yeah, you can hold on to that. I will show you that in maybe 15 minutes. Okay, if there's no other questions, or I can just...
I think Albert has a question, and also there's a question from Tom in the chat.
Oh, okay. So let's go to Albert's question.
Yeah, Jun, thanks so much for picking up this very important essentially an architecture design issue. You were commenting earlier about Europe and the US. I've been actively involved, and still am, in the discussions on how to design the tape. You made it sound like we are way behind because we're considering SIP type technology. When you make that statement, be a bit careful, because the environment's completely different here, where we don't have a rule-based system where you have to guarantee best execution and you can't trade through other quotes. What we have here is more principles-based, like you should do the best you can for your client. And now you could decide to trade through another quote simply because you have a larger order that you don't want anybody to see. Should you send it to multiple exchanges, or you might benefit from quantum discounts if you send all your flow to a single exchange, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one. I just wanted you to be, it's a nuanced picture, but I encourage you to think through what you believe we should do over here in Europe. Now, the other thing that I wanted to tell you, the benefit of this community is that we can help Europe, at least, and the US, because it's open there too, find maybe the first best system. And one thing that I'd been arguing here in discussions is, why should we infer the direction of the trade? Why don't we simply mandate, particularly for trade reporting, that the aggressive side simply gets mentioned in the record, so that we don't have to infer it from bringing quotes in and do the best we can, and all this messy stuff. Is that a discussion in the US? And if not, do you think it should be? Because I believe there's something to say for it. See what I mean?
Yeah. So thanks for the feedback. I totally agree that many of these best execution practice are like in the discussion of various content, and also there are more complicated orders that could happen simultaneously, because we're also looking into what's the remaining inaccurately assigned trades as well, and we find that there are trade through exempts, there are dark orders, there are hidden orders, and there are also challenges from the methodology itself. So there are cases where it's not going to be perfect that gives you 100%, but this is just a one step to account for latency that shows it matters for methodology. And also for the rulemaking that you are talking about, I think the SEC is under a hot debate with all the SROs, the exchanges, regarding what's the new CT plan is gonna like, and they are accepting comment letters and feedback and suggestions. I think there's a lot that they can talk about. So for our paper, we will mention this in the last, we'll care maybe more about where that new SIP is going to be located, because they do not plan to use any of the existing UTP or CTA's processor. They're going to choose a third-party independent administrator of the new CT plan. And then where it's going to be located, relative to all the existing exchanges, matching engines. And there's a lot to discuss in this dimension. And as you said, I think the ultimate goal for all the rulemaking and all these, is to practice best execution, to protect the interest of all these traders, to make sure that they got traded and executed at the fair price. Yeah, we can catch up later on this. I think this is going to be a very interesting chat. Yeah. Because of let's see, do we have any more questions? If you don't mind, can you keep typing the questions in the chat channel, and we will get that at the end of the presentation. And also Matt will try to help answer it on the fly. I just want to get to the methodology and potential of results, so that you can get an idea about what the amount of work we have done, and whether these are convincing to let you know that the latency adjustment actually matters for matching trade and quotes. Okay. Let me continue going on. So we propose two new trade to quote matching methods. As I presented to you earlier, we have the SIP feed and we have the direct feed. So we actually have methodologies, one for each. So in the end, now today, the US favors the direct feed, but in the end, if the new CT plan or the new feed is going to be more popular, that is, speed compatible, there might be partitioners or exchanges that swing back to a consolidated feed later. So the two methods doesn't say we prefer one strongly to the other, but just because the two systems that the exchanges can choose from, we propose these two methodologies accordingly. Okay. So the first method, which is our preferred method, is called the relative BBO method. So basically, if you think about the geographic locations of these exchange matching engines and the current CTA and UTP SIP, there are three co-located cities: Mahwah, Cataract, and Secaucus. Okay, so instead of doing an individual exchange-based RBBO, doing a city-based relative BBO would save a lot of time and computing. Okay, so basically, all the exchanges that co-locate in one city would share a common limit order book, where we basically grab all the trades, all the quotes from all the exchanges located at away cities, and then consider the time that it takes to travel from the away city to the local city, and then consolidate that quotes to be the limit order book of the local relative BBO. So all the trades that are executing in Mahwah will know where to route the orders to, and then they will execute based on that RBBO as they perceived. So basically, this is just taking the fact that exchanges are co-located in the cities, and also we count for the amount of time that the orders travel from the away cities, and mimic as if the orders were received at the local, and then decide when and where to route the orders to based on the RBBOs. So if you think about, there are two networks, UTP and CTA. There are three cities: Mahwah, Cataract, and Secaucus. So to be precise, you need 6 latency reference files. So because of the city-to-city travel latency, that you will need one for Secaucus to Mahwah, and another for Cataract to Mahwah, and another for Cataract to Secaucus. So that's 3. And then you have UTP network and CTP network. So times 2, that's the 6 latency reference files. And then you will have 6 RBBOs, one for each exchange, and the one for each network. Okay, per exchange co-located city per network. So that's 6 RBBOs in total. So the second method, which mimics the feed in the message that they transmit through the SIP feed, is that you will need to match the trades at the executing exchange time to the quotes that are also after broadcasting from the SIP and waited to arrive to the trade executing exchange. Okay, so this would be lining up the trades and quotes perfectly. So we suggest a SIP computing saving solution. So basically, there's one shortcoming here. You do not observe how much time it takes from the NBBO to travel from the SIP to the trade executing exchange. This is not observable in TAG. So if I bring this old diagram from here, you don't have the time span for this red line. You don't have these. These are not observable in TAG. So what do you do here? So we'll propose this computing saving solution. So we know in the end, the trade has to be reported back to the SIP for the consolidated trade, right? So we just subtract this travel time on both the quote and trade side. So you see this is now matching the quotes at NBBO SIP time, matching to trade at executing exchange time, less this travel time. And then we use the trade message latency, which it takes the trade message to report from the executing exchange back to the SIP as a proxy for how much amount of time it takes for that NBBO to travel from the SIP to the trade executing exchange. So if you might remember that we are not measuring this, which is the time span, which is latency it takes from the SIP to the trade originating, and then trade originating exchange routing order to the quote originating exchange. This is not observable, but at least we are adjusting for the amount of time that the quote the quote originating exchange, and in the end, it becomes the trade executing exchange, that it will have to route orders back to the SIP to report that trade in the consolidated trade. So this is, as you might notice, the one side of the triangle is the minimum. So the two sides of the triangle is greater than the third side. So this is the minimum amount you need to adjust for that latency. Okay. Okay, so how to prove that our trade classification benefits from latency adjustment methods? So as we are not innovating new trade classification methods, but rather we just do a final first step of the trade to quote matching. So we use the existing trade classification methods, and we will show you that latency adjustments benefits all trade classification methods. That has so this is the benefit of doing the latency adjustments. It's no matter which trade classification methods you are using. In the end, it benefits all. And we also check on trades matched to cross the quotes and lock the quotes and outside MBBOs. Okay, so for those that are matched to abnormal trades, and see whether it helps to reduce the amount of trades matched to abnormal quotes. So we have two data sets. The first data is the daily tag, and the other one is the NYSE and NYSE Alpha integrated data feed, which is also known as the limit order book. This is the direct feed for NYSE and NYSE Alpha. So it is a message-based limit order. It has the submission, deletion, execution, and replacement of the order messages. We have a sample on Word. You can feel free to browse the sample data. So we have two samples. The tag sample is from 2015 August to 2019 December. This is when the participant exchange timestamp is available. And then we have the limit order book sample, which is the 2017 December to 2019 June, which is lasts for 19 months. We have the order book data for these 19 months. We do not impose any filters on stocks, so we can examine things like cross-sectional and also we do not have any stock or trade filters. So we want to be as inclusive as possible. So there was one data cleaning steps that is involved. Basically, we have to match trades in tag versus the order executions in the order book. So the way we did it is that we match the trades in the limit order book. So we look into the limit order book executions where there's a limit order. Here we mean limit order and marketable limit orders that were executed against market orders. So the sitting limit order, these non-marketable limit orders that were executed against the market orders, the market orders and the marketable limit orders, and we infer the trade, the tag trade position from the counterparty limit orders position. So we know whether the trade is a buy initiated or sell initiated. So in our results, when we present you the results, we use the latency adjustment time as the main result, and then we put RBBO in the appendix. So the reason why we use the latency adjustment time, we'll talk about that in a few slides, because of the computing time for latency adjustment time is the smallest. So you don't need to spend a lot of time computing when using latency adjustment time. RBBO is a little bit more time computing expensive. And we will let you know the number in a few slides very quickly. So how do we match trades in tag and the limit order book? So here on the upside, we have the limit order book order executions. We match that with the tag based on symbol, trade price, trade size, and also we match that to the exact nanosecond, which is the participant time. So here is an example of an Apple trade. You see this is the two trades executed in the limit order book. They have the same trade ID, meaning one is a sitting limit order, the other is a market order that is executed against that limit order. And we have the price of $189.70 and then volume 79 shares. It is matched perfectly to the exact nanosecond of the participant exchange time in tag. As you can see, this timestamp is exact in nanoseconds. After we've identifying that, we go into the limit order book order submissions. We find the same order ID of these two orders, and we know when it was submitted, so we know which one is a sitting limit order or which one is a market order. And then we know the side of the order, so we know whether this is a buy initiative or sell initiative. I think this is a market sell executing against a sitting limit buy. So let me present you our results. So we repeat this step for all the NYSE and Alpha trades for that 19 months period. So this is once again, this is a limit order book sample, which is the 19 months. So we repeat this exercise for matching the limit order book, limit order to market order trades. In tech, in the end, we match about 500 million of these trades that spans 395 days, 2017 December to 2019 June. We show you the difference between the SIP time, which is just the match trades and quotes using the SIP time method, versus the latency adjustment time, which is the second best method. You can see the improvement is very robust. So it's 5.3% better for Lee-Ready and 6.5% better for EMO and 4.43% for CRNV. And we want to present you this time series. It's not just a tease that or on average it's doing better. It's also doing better on every single day. So to read this chart, which is our main chart here, we want to go from the bottom to the top. So here on the orange line, this is the trade classification accuracy using the SIP time. So the on average it is about 87%. You can see these up and downs. And for the dashed purple line, this is the direct NBBO method. So Bartlett and McCurran 2019 GFM paper, they suggest that just replacing the, just use the participant exchange time to match trades and quotes, and you will be better off. Yes, you are. You are about 1.2% better off. And also I want to mention that there are some days that the direct NBBO method by Bartlett and McCurry is not always doing better than the SIP time. Okay, so what's interesting is that you look into the downs of all the SIP time and the direct NBBO methods, you'll realize that when we plot in the amount of market orders route out away from NYSE and ARCA, which is the green line here, you notice their accuracy seems to decline. So which this echoes with our previous argument that if there are more order routing activities happening among the exchanges, those that omit latency and assume the observation of other exchanges messages are instantaneous will suffer a much lower accuracy. Okay, this is exactly what we're seeing. When order routing activities increases, those that assumes zero latency is dropping in their accuracies. So how are the latency adjustment methods doing? So they are on the top here. So for the latency adjustment time, which is the A here in the green line here, you're seeing that these are doing about 5% better compared to the SIP time and the direct and RBBO time. It is not better, but always it's better on every single day. So there are some dips. This is a technology failure and the timestamp, but we have not that noted. I will also get to that. But other than that, every single day, the latency adjustment method is doing better. So if you are thinking about doing the RBBO, there are two ways doing that. One is to collect the RBBO using from the NBBO, and there's also construct the RBBO from the quote file. So if you are doing this from the NBBO, there's not much improvement. There's a minor improvement. But if you are consolidating the RBBO from the quote file, you are able to benefit about another 60 basis points more accurate sign chain. So I want to mention that although we are doing the RBBO here, but this is like inferring the direct feeds using the SIP feed. This is not the true direct feed. You do not observe the actual latency in the direct feeds. So still we are using in other words, the optical fiber cables latency to proxy for those that actually could be consumed through the wireless, which might be 40–50% faster. So this is, again, a proxy, but it is, as we show you, that is doing better than the existing methods that we know of. So why we prefer the second best method, which is the latency adjustment time. This is happening to do with the computation cost. So we can do as the finest as we can, considered by those by exchanges. But in the end, things could take a long time to compute. So it is always a factor that we have to consider when coming up with methodologies. So here we want to show you that compared to the current SIP time method, just an example of running Holden and Jacobson's code on an entire day, okay, for all the entire cross-section, all trades, it takes about 30 to 40 minutes. And the classification accuracy is about 86.75%. Now, if you are doing the Bartlett and McCurry's and direct NBBO method, because you have to resort everything based on the participant time. It's going to take more about 10, 15 minutes more. You'll get 1.2% better. And if you're using the latency adjustment methods, which in the end will show just to add 2 lines to Holden and Jacobson SAS code, you will be benefiting for that 5% increment to be 92% accurate. And if you want to construct the RBBOs, it's gonna take the city-based RBBOs. It's gonna take about 3 hours, and you will have a slight improvement over the second best methods. So, but this is relatively computing expensive. Okay. So we also look into what happened to the remaining 8% of the trades that are not signed correctly. As Arbus mentioned earlier, there are trades that can break through the best execution rules, and there's all these special circumstances. So we look into those. When tick test is used, this is basically a decomposition of leave ready. So when tick test is used, and if it is used, there's a chance that the tick could be assigned incorrect. And if this is not used, then this is basically bid-ask spread, and referring to the bid-ask midpoint to sign these trades. So we still have about 8% of these incorrect, and we look into those. 1.5% of these trades are trade through exact. Okay, so they are literally can trade through the NBBO, the best prices. So 2.5% of trades is 1 cent away to trigger tick test and will be signed correctly with tick test. So this might have something to do with a specific threshold in the ready to trigger tick test. And there are 1.57%, they have hidden orders executing within the same second. So hidden order executions have priority over regular orders, so they can mess up the best prices and make the NBBO signing inaccurate. And there's still about 2.5% that we do not know. I contribute to the fact that we are still using SIP feed to come up with the best educated guess of the direct feed, but it is not necessarily being 100% accurate. So there could be new methods that could account for all these potential reasons to do fine adjustment and improve the trade classification accuracy better. So we talked about
Jun, just sorry to interrupt. Just to let you know, we're running out of time because the 45 minutes are over, and many people would actually have to leave at the top of the hour.
Yep.
So if you wanted to wrap up and maybe take questions, sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. So later in the paper, we also showed that in an advanced study with the noisy pillar migration, where there's a huge reduction in latency, that adjust for latency could alter research inferences. So if you do not adjust for latency, you will end up with having false positive conclusions related to latency, related to technology innovations that could improve liquidity. But actually, if you take out latency, nothing matters. It does not matter. So to just a 1 minute quick wrap, and then we'll be open to questions. So we showed that for tech trade classification research with 2015 August and onward, you could adjust for message latency, and you will benefit trade classification accuracy increases from 86% to 92%. And doing the latency adjustment is very easy. If you're familiar with the Holden and Jacobson SAS code, you just add 2 lines in the code, and then you will benefit for that 6% better off. And if you want to go after the RBBO methods, we will provide the RBBO files onwards. And just a kind of a general overview, we are among the many papers who are using the latency adjustments, and we are among the many papers who are looking to trade classification accuracy. But we provide the method that gives the best trade classification accuracy now, and we present results with unconditional and inclusive results. We keep all the stock. We do not have any stock filters or trade filters, so we kept everything. So there could be new methods that help everybody to move toward more closer to the 100% goal. And I think we will be good for questions.
I'll let you take questions. Thank you very much. So I see the hand from Pankaj.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, very good presentation, Jun. I have a quick question. So in the remaining errors, which you're not able to find out why it's happening, is it related to the intermarket sweep orders? Because those go in without consideration to the best quotes, right? The exemption allows you to trade through in a way, yeah, as long as you take out the best quote.
Thank you, PK. Yes, actually, we did restrict our sample to unconditional regular trades. So we do not include these intermarket sweeps. So this is not part of the reason. Yes. Should have mentioned this in the data step.
So yeah, I mean, that's a very large proportion though, right? So how do you recommend the researchers should exclude ISOs? I mean, they can be sometimes more than 50% of the trades.
For the ISOs, we still have we will say it's going to be very difficult to adjust because you do not know which part of the ISO go to which exchange. Is it going to be a local one or an away one?
Right, exactly. Yeah. But it's a very central question to what you're trying to do. That's why I thought it's important because the researchers would want to include those orders. And unless we address it, maybe you have a next paper addressing it, but it seems
maybe
quite central to your.
So I think one point, once we have all the exchanges order book, we can definitely look into questions like these, how ISOs are intermarket sweeps are executed throughout the panel, and even though there could be a portion that is executed locally, but those are a way how to do fine adjustments among these. So the RBBOs and everything we show here could be just the first step of taking care of those. But in the end, hopefully, we will have the direct feeds of everybody, and then we'll be able to tackle such a question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, hello. Yeah, I just want to ask some details because some of the things is not really in line with my memory. For example, 36, the page 36. Can you hear me? So you're talking about a hidden order have higher priority than displayed order?
36. So 36.
Page 36. Yeah, I think it's the opposite, right? Yeah, I think it will cause the problem. The reason for hidden order execution has priority over regular orders. I don't think so. I mean, we might double check because usually exchange encourage people to display their order. Yeah. For example, for NASDAQ, in my memory, is displayed order or the displayed part of the iceberg order have the priority of the hidden part and hidden order in the same price. So I think you better double check. In my memory is just opposite. Yeah. But I think it will cause some problem of the matching as well. But just double check it. I suggest you double check it because it's quite different. And also economic doesn't really make sense, right? Usually exchange want to encourage the people to display the order, right, rather than hidden it. The other one is page 27.
27.
When you're talking about you calculate the latency, if I understand right, the only thing you can calculate should be all based on SIP timestamp, right?
Yes.
SIP timestamp, because you need to, if you want to calculate the latency, you need to make sure the timestamp are taken at the same server. Yeah. So there's no way. So the only thing you can say is round trip and then divide by 2, and roughly. I just want to double check if is the way you calculate the latency, or you compare the timestamps from original into the ZIP.
So we basically compared to, so there are two stamps that you are able to observe: the timestamp at the exchange matching engine, and also the timestamp at the SIP. But you do not see the timestamp when it comes out from the SIP and it arrives to the participating exchange. It's only one way to the other way, right?
Yeah, I try to say is if you have the timestamp and ZIP minus the original timestamp and exchange, it's not necessary to be the latency, because they are measured in 2 servers. So they are naturally different of the clock. So it's not really reliable. Yeah. So I just want to highlight this. But maybe for you, might be already somebody, because there's random part for the clock, right? Because the two servers, the clock are not exactly the same. They are not synchronized.
Well, well, I can jump in here. That's why
yeah,
he said we created 6 city-based RBBOs rather than 3. Because we separate which system it's on for the SIP. Does that make sense? And these are also city-based estimates. I mean, there's details with latency that we didn't get into when it comes to gateway and server-specific latencies.
Yeah.
But some of that just has to be kind of ignored, well, because we just don't have the data to be very specific about it.
Okay, but anyway, I just try to highlight this a little bit details. But I think, but anyway, the overall your result is better, right? After the latency adjust. But usually you do not use these 2 timestamp to calculate latency, particularly in industry. Yeah, just like highlight this. Yeah.
Yeah, because the practitioners, they use direct feed, not SIP feed, right? So the SIP feed doesn't matter to them.
Yeah. So usually in industry, you usually use the same server. You send a message to there and get the feedback, and you divide by 2. It will calculate wrong to be the latency, but rather than compare the original timestamp from exchange in the timestamp of my server, because they are not the same. The time is not the same. The clock are not the same.
I totally
just want to highlight this. So when you write the paper, maybe you want to just highlight this to make sure it's not confused.
So Reihong, I totally agree. You know, this is just for academics, we only have tag, which is the SIP feed, and we are trying our best to counter you know latencies and hopefully get closer to the true direct feed you guys are consuming. So that is the kind of the why this paper matters. You know.
Yes. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
I'll just jump in before Mao asks the question, because we're at the top of the hour. I just wanted to say thank you for coming, and we're still gonna take Mao's question, but it's quite appropriate to jump in front of Mao, because in 2 weeks we're gonna see Yunus Topas presenting when a market is not legally defined in the market, evidence from 2 types of dark trading, which is joined with Mao. And so Mao, now sorry to jump in right ahead of you. Go ahead with the question.
Oh, I actually have very quick comments, maybe to reconcile what Reihong said. And by the way, Jun, that's a great presentation. I guess your result probably it's because at the same price, actually, hidden order has lower priority. You might find hidden liquidity at a certain point. They happen to be at the best price, so they have execution priority. So the hidden order actually have better price at some milliseconds or something than the displayed orders. I guess this is why it happens. Just check the price, because price change a lot. Sometimes hidden price at 1 millisecond can be the best price.
Oh, that sounds good. We can definitely check into that. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, that's just one comment.
Yep, great. Thanks.
So nobody else ask question? Then can I give you another comment? Actually, I put that in the chat. I think some order types, if you compare SEC 605, Tom asked a question about it's like a routed out orders. And actually, because lots of orders probably, I don't know, exempt by SEC 605. So not sure order, the number actually matches with what you finding in SEC 605. But remember, it's like a majority of the orders actually refuse routing.
Yes.
So like about 60% of orders actually try to be refused to route it to other exchange. But they might not be in SEC 605. I just don't know. It's like that's my second comment.
That's we've talked about this internally, and it's something that Jun didn't get to mention. That's kind of why we want to stress the importance of like the RBBO method. It's imperfect, but because exchanges are not really using what the SIP displays as the NBBO to execute against, that's part of where this segment of latency matters, right? Because even if it's executed locally, the RBBO differs from the NBBO 15% of the time. So what the exchange sees locally differs from the wide market for a good portion of the time as well. That's it's like a detail we didn't get to talk about.
I also want to add that we are interested in looking into, one of the usage of the RBBO is that you can also try to look into the tag and then, compared to the RBBO to see what kind of orders could be get routed out and what are executed locally. And then in the end, we can double check with the exchange's 605 metrics to see if we get a close approximation of what orders get routed out, what's not. So that might be something we can explore in the later.
All right, I guess I'm next. Thank you so much for a great presentation. I was wondering if this latency, is it only an issue for assigning trade direction, or can it also become a problem, for example, the 605 data, which reports different like effective spreads and realized spreads and stuff, where you compare a trade to the NBBO? Because is that NBBO, is that the correct NBBO, or how is that computed, or is it not a problem because the reporting, for example, the wholesalers or the exchanges and whatnot, will they have the correct timestamp, or is this related in any way, or should we be fine?
Thanks, Anne. I think to do this exercise accurately, we would want to have all the direct feeds, because the exchanges are executing and routing orders based on the direct feeds, but not by the SIP feed, right? So to do this exercise precisely, we want to have the direct feeds and then see if all the liquidity metrics is in the 605 matches precisely to those, and whether latency adjustment helps those. But I think the RBBOs and the latency adjustment methods we propose here could tell a big difference for those adjust for latency versus does not adjust for latency when comparing to the 605 metrics. This could be something we can add later to the paper too, to just show that after adjusting for latency, maybe the metrics you get is actually now closer to what the exchange 605 says. So this could be one interesting application. But at this moment, we haven't tested anything related to that yet. But we would be interested to do something like this.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Any more questions you want me to answer?
I saw Albert question.
Yeah. So this is more related to optimal execution regulation. So related, writing a little bit on Anne's question. So if you're saying that markets are using their direct feeds, so am correct in saying that optimal execution is based on the direct feed, or is it on the SIP at this point?
It's based on the direct feed. Yes.
Okay.
So SIP is now the secondary feed, which means only when the primary, which is the direct feeds, is failed or has any technical interruptions, they will switch on to the SIP feed. But direct feed is now the primary feed. This has been starting from 2015, when NYSE and NASDAQ become to bring the direct feed and switch it to be primary, and then all the other exchanges followed quickly after that. So the screenshot we showed you in one, the fact how NYSE is using direct feed and communicating with other participant exchanges. This is a screenshot as of 2021. So as of 2021, pretty much all the exchanges except for these non-SROs, which is IEX, Miami, and Pro and Long Term, everybody else is using direct feed as primary. Same as the practitioners.
Thank you.
I can shed some color on that too. If you look into the exchange rulemaking documentation, they will list which feeds they ingest. That's what we did. There's a figure in the paper that shows, well, I guess a new draft we're working on will show the rise of direct feeds over time. But there's also an SEC roundtable from a few years ago where they kind of talk about this, and they dance around the outright saying that most exchanges don't ingest the SIP, and T Rowe, the head of trading at T Rowe was saying that they refuse to trade with anybody or anyone who uses anything but direct feeds to route their flow. They refuse to engage with them because everyone uses direct feeds to ingest.
Thank you.
I think Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. And I just wanted to let you know 605 requires the use of the SIP for the MBBO. So to the degree that it's not really perfect, that's all the effective spreads and realized spreads are based on SIP NBBOs. That's what we have to do. I'm hoping that tomorrow when the SEC talks about 605, that the new rule will allow us to use direct feeds.
I see.
Or what we recognize as the MBBO.
Yes. Yes. I also saw your nice comment letter on the new CT plan. It's still under debate, right? So for the new Reg NMS.
That I'm not getting into.
Yeah. Okay, I see. Thank you very much. Thank you for comments. Right. I want to thank everybody again for coming and joining us in the session. And if you have any more questions or comments, once again, feel free to share with us. You have my email and my Matt's email here. And I want to thank you again for coming and thank you for all the feedback. And thanks again. I'll see you in 2 weeks at another TME session. Thank you.
I think Mao
has one more comment.
Oh, Mao.
Yeah,
go ahead.
A very quick question, actually, just to summarize what Jun and Steve said. I try to correctly understand. So the routing is based on direct feed, but the calculation of SEC 605 is on SEP, right? So you basically you have two different systems.
The calculation is based on direct feeds as well.
But the 605, no. Steve said the computation of 605 is based on SEP, but the routing is based on the direct feed, right? So there are two different systems for two different things. Am I correct?
Yeah,
that
doesn't
correct.
Match up. You're right.
Yeah.
We're going to route out based on what we see, but the MBBO that we match it to is based on the SIP.
Okay, two different systems. Wow.
There seems to be a friction there.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? So Jim Upson had a paper. He said the SEC was allowing like 1 second latency for enforcing these things. Did that drop ever, or is it still that nobody is punished if you're behind by 1 second almost? Like, what's the consequence if somebody is not matching to the best code? And how do you measure that? Is it still 1 second latency, which is being allowed from the regulatory side?
I would know.
Yeah, I don't think we would know, but I think maybe Steve will help to answer whether that's still the 1 second grace period, if that still exists. But I don't think we can answer that in a paper. Yeah.
Steve, I mean, maybe you're up to it.
There's one more question.
Hi there. So my name is Peter Statue. I'm from the London Stock Exchange, hence the English accent. And I must confess, I've only just discovered your paper about 30 minutes ago, and then managed to find this about 4 minutes ago. So I'm sorry that I've missed everything. So I have two questions for you. First of all, one is, will there be a recording of this that would be available? Fantastic.
Yes, there will be.
Great.
Nice.
How do I get access to that?
Oh, you just go to the MicroStrategy Exchange website. I think usually a week after presentation, you will see a video recording and also the link to the paper there.
Brilliant, great. Yes, I will look at that and sort of follow up. But then sort of the general thing is, I don't know if you guys are aware, but in Europe, we are also undergoing the discussion about whether or not we should have a consolidated tape similar to a SIP. Yeah. And as the London Stock Exchange, we of course have opinions about that. Right, there we go.
So
yes, so
that's exactly what you are talking about, right?
Yes, brilliant. Yes.
Yes.
So we of course have opinions about that, and we're currently developing a paper that will be discussing that. I would love to connect with you guys perhaps offline and discuss some of your work a little bit. Maybe not in the context of a broader group like this, but so that's my two questions.
Yep, sounds good. Yeah,
thank you.
Feel free to reach us. You have our emails.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I believe I've in fact already emailed you guys and then realized that this was on, and so look out for my email. It'll be the top of your inbox.
Okay, sure. Look forward to talking with you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And you're also welcome to subscribe to the Microstructure Exchange emails, because you have actually many of these talks that might potentially be of interest to you as well. So this is a bi-weekly event.
I
So
absolutely
thanks
will.
for joining. But yeah, the recording should be where you found the link for the paper, the microstructure.exchange website, if that's where you found it. But
exactly, no, this would be fantastic. I'm extremely excited about this because I am the senior market microstructure quant at the stock exchange, so I should be part of this group anyway. So I will sign up later. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And I just want to say a few more words for TME. So we are in a very good partnership. We've been sponsoring the Best Paper Award at TME, and we wish there more people want to submit papers to TME for presentation. So in other than the monetary award of 3,000 for the best paper, you also now will get a gorgeous, beautiful trophy for the best paper award too. It's gonna be a nice decoration in your office as well. So we hope this will continue to be a very successful online seminar, and we hope to see you here every 2 weeks.
we should have started with this before everybody had to leave at the top of the hour.
It's fine. Probably
Thank you very much,
yeah.
Jun. Thank you, Wharton, for the sponsorship, and thank you very much for the presentation. It was a very interesting talk. So thank you all for coming and for staying. And again, we'll see you all here in 2 weeks, hopefully. So meanwhile, have a nice Tuesday, wherever you are. Thanks again.
Thank you, Kataya. Thank you, everybody.